So far we have discussed one requirement, don't provide setter method and class becomes immutable. But not just that, there are a lot of other things also. So those we will discuss on Monday. So now you understand that wrapper classes are immutable because they don't have setter methods. So once you create, that value is fixed.
So like string, if we perform any action on this, so it will create new object to store that result.
But it does not have those methods. I mean, methods is messy. ऐसे methods नहीं. String we need ना. String is suppose hello to uppercase to lowercase substring. So string का requirement is different and wrapper classes का requirement is different. Wrapper classes का whole and sole purpose is to wrap primitive and pass to that method where object is a parameter.
Sir, if you want to change the value of num, then
if you want to change the
value of num, I mean
change.
Yes.
So if you change num, who will stop you? But you can't change integer.
Okay.
तो num तो primitive है ना, कभी भी change करो ना, as long as it is not final. Just a point here. In wrapper demo 1, I would like to inform you one more thing. How do you wrap primitive inside a wrapper class? Or how do you convert primitive to wrapper class? Both are same. Huh? Whether you say wrap primitive inside wrapper class or whether you say convert primitive to wrapper class. This is the way. And here, one more thing we can discuss. And that is, how do you convert wrapper class to primitive? Ulta. That is, int k is equal to ob dot int value. K is k.
Sir,
or keyword, or keyword.
So at that time, this is all we are discussing about prior to Java 5. Prior to Java 5, whenever you wanted to convert primitive to wrapper class, you had to create object of wrapper class by passing primitive. Whenever you wanted to convert primitive to wrapper class, you had to create object of wrapper class by passing that primitive. Whenever you wanted to do vice versa, wrapper to primitive, you had to call int value method of integer, for example. So respective wrapper classes have got respective methods like that. So integer class has got int value. What it does, it converts wrapper to primitive. So ob.int value converts wrapper to primitive, and in k we get the same value. Now here only, let's see one comparative study. That information is there in folder somewhere, but this wrapper demo 1, this scenario is prior to Java 5. Prior to Java 5. And then Java 5 onwards. Java 5 onwards. Say wrapper class, wrapper demo 1 underscore A. How do you wrap primitive inside wrapper class, or how do you convert primitive to wrapper class? It was, Java 5 onwards, how do you convert primitive to wrapper class, or how do you wrap primitive inside wrapper class? Is you need not say integer ob is equal to new integer num. You can just say integer ob is equal to num. So you just assign your primitive to wrapper. In order to convert primitive to wrapper, or in order to wrap primitive by wrapper class, you just assign primitive to wrapper. It is that much easy. Simple syntax, and this is called as auto boxing. So auto boxing means assigning primitive to wrapper class. And for converting wrapper class to primitive, you don't have to call int value. You can just say int k is equal to b, ob. Int k is equal to ob. That means in order to convert wrapper class to primitive, you just assign that reference type, wrapper type to primitive. And that is called as unboxing. So Java 5 introduced these two concepts, auto boxing and unboxing. K is 100. Yeah. Look at that. Look at the syntax of auto boxing, unboxing. Auto boxing means assigning primitive to wrapper, and unboxing means vice versa, assigning wrapper to primitive. So syntax changed in Java 5 in order to convert primitive to wrapper and vice versa. And that syntax is very simple as compared to previous syntax. Integer ob is equal to new integer num, or int k is equal to ob dot int value. Now it is integer ob is equal to num and int k is equal to ob. No need to say dot int value. That is unboxing. So auto boxing means assigning primitive to wrapper, and unboxing means assigning wrapper to primitive.
So what is the advantage of this? Like, where are we gonna use this?
Simple syntax. That is the advantage. You don't have to say integer ob is equal to new integer. Whenever you want to wrap any primitive, or whenever you want to convert primitive to wrapper, you don't have to say that wrapper class is equal to new wrapper class. I mean integer ob is equal to new integer. You don't have to say. You can just say integer ob is equal to num. So your typing is saved. You have to use simple syntax. Whenever you want to convert vice versa, wrapper to primitive, you don't have to call that int value method. You can just say int k is equal to ob. Right?
Yeah.
Main purpose is, if Main is requirement. If you require to convert primitive to wrapper, then you use auto boxing. If you want to convert wrapper to primitive, you use auto unboxing.
Sir,
Hmm?
we have primitives. So, what is the need of wrapper classes, sir?
Arey? We started with the discussion. We started with the discussion why wrapper classes were introduced. Suppose there was a method which was accepting object. So we could pass any child
Oh,
class
yeah,
of
yeah,
object. We wanted
Yes,
to
yes,
pass
yes.
primitive. Yeah.
I guess, sir.
So for that purpose, yeah. I'm coming to that example once again because I have to discuss that example from Java 5 point of view. So I'm going to discuss that example once again. Okay, here notice that auto boxing syntax is very cool. Syntax is very cool. Integer ob is equal to num. No need to say integer ob is equal to new integer. Again, unboxing syntax is cool. Int k is equal to ob. No need to say ob dot int value. But remember one thing: auto boxing and unboxing. It is written somewhere in that folder. It is written somewhere. Auto boxing and unboxing are only till compiler level or compilation level. Why? Because JVM does not understand integer ob is equal to num. For JVM integer is reference type and num is primitive. How can you assign that? So JVM does not understand auto boxing. Again here int k is equal to ob. K is primitive and ob is reference type. So for JVM these two are quite different. So JVM does not understand auto boxing and unboxing. But compiler has allowed you to write that. So what compiler does, compiler allows you to write auto boxing and unboxing. Programmer, you write, you use simple syntax. But when you compile the code, compiler goes back to the old way. Old way means this statement will be changed by compiler to integer ob is equal to new integer num. And this statement will change by compiler as int k is equal to ob dot int value. So compiler writes the same old statement. Compiler allows you to write simple syntax. So that's why auto boxing and unboxing are only till compiler level. They are like syntactical sugar for you, for a programmer. Syntactical sugar means simple syntax. Okay. Now about that example, why wrapper classes were introduced. This is prior to Java 5. Whenever we had a method accepting object, and if we wanted to pass num, we had to convert that num into integer, and we had to pass that integer. Integer we could pass because integer is the child class of object. Java 5 onwards. Java 5 onwards, there's a good news. And what is that good news is Show num is now possible. Show num is now possible. That's why I said in the beginning when I discussed that point, I said it was not possible. Now it is possible. How it's possible? Can you guess? This will compile. This will work. Argument is object. We are passing num. Num is int. Still, it will be allowed. In fact, this is allowed since Java 5.
कंपाइल कर देगा वो अंदर से कंपाइल
Sir, auto boxing.
Compiler will takes it as a earlier format.
No, compiler will automatically wrap the primitive type into wrapper classes and pass it.
Auto boxing.
Yeah. You write show num. What compiler will do? Show new integer. So compiler will auto box it to integer and pass that integer to object. Compiler does it implicitly. You just have to be show num. Okay. So that's allowed now. It was not allowed prior to Java 5. Prior to Java 5, you had to convert that num to integer and then pass it. Okay, wrapper demo 2. What is that? Wrapper demo 2. String str is equal to 125. Can we say like that? Yes. Double quotes may whatever you write, that is string always. So 125. Str plus is equal to 10. Now you know plus operator can be used with string. So str plus is equal to 10. That means str is equal to str plus 10. So you are expecting 135, but it will not be 135. It will concatenate that 10 into 125. So answer will be 12510. 12510. True, no? It will concatenate 10 into 125. Now you want answer 135. So uske liye kya karenge? You have to convert that string into int. How do you convert string into int? Integer dot parseInt. So parseInt is a static method of integer which takes string and converts into int, but on one condition, that string must contain all digits. If string does not contain all digits, you will get number format exception, which is unchecked exception. And now you say k plus is equal to 10, so that will give you 135. So in the last example, we said str plus is equal to 10. That gave us 12510 because it concatenated that string. But here we converted string to int, and in that int we added 10. Now question arises here, instead of doing all these things, why don't we straight away assign int k is equal to 125 and then say k plus is equal to 10? Why we are doing this long cut? It is because yesterday also I told you that in GUI applications, graphical user interface applications, web-based applications especially, when you accept any number, it is first of all treated as a string. For example, HTML ka text box, where you accept 125. So that 125 will not be taken as a number, that 125 will be taken as a string. So you should have Java's capability to convert that into int. And we have that using wrapper class, integer.parseInt. The way you have integer.parseInt, that way double dot parse double, float dot float, parse float, etc. Okay. I just would like to show you if your str contains non-digit, say 125 mm space, because this problem always comes when you write web application in advanced Java. Number format exception. Why? Because your string contains 125 in space and that you try to convert to %. So you should have a programming technique where you will check that string contains all digits. You should not handle number format exception because it is unchecked exception. Yeah. So it's better always. It is advisable always, especially in case of web-based applications. When you accept any number from user, and you know that number will be taken as a string, so don't take any chance. Always say str.trim. So that will remove leading and trailing space. So by mistake, while entering number, user pressed space, then that will create problem. So always str.trim is advisable. Don't just say str.trim. So that will remove any leading or trailing spaces. Yeah, this is already we have done. Wrapper demo 2. Before JDK 1.5 converting primitive to wrapper, we had to create object. Vice versa, we had to say int value. JDK 5 onwards, converting primitive to wrapper, auto boxing. Vice versa, unboxing. But I told you, this is only up to compiler level. At the time of compilation, compiler removes this and replaces this with integer ob is equal to new integer num and replaces this with int k is equal to ob dot int value. It is because JVM does not understand auto boxing and unboxing. They are just syntactical sugar for a programmer.
Sir, can you open the demo 2 once?
Demo 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sir, your string is immutable, right? But here we have concatenated and it got updated there itself.
Yeah, you are correct, but you have not seen this statement. Str plus is equal to का meaning है str is equal to str plus.